There she is.
Okay.
Committee Mahiki,
Here.
Mr. Urbana. Here. Mr. Leonard.
Here.
Mr. Rodelius.
Present.
Mr. DeGiovanni.
Here.
Mr. Walter.
Here.
Mr. First.
Here.
Chairwoman Betcha.
I'm here.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk, sent to the Burnsville News and the Courier News, and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 12, 2024.
Please stand. Like salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll open it up to the public. If anyone has anything that they'd like to discuss, comments. That's not on the agenda. Put it up. How about on the internet there?
Anyone, if you have something to say that's not on the agenda now, you can either raise your hand, unmute yourself.
Guess not. No, we will close it to the public for now. And we need a motion for the minutes from March 7th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Luke needs to abstain. Anyone else? No? Okay, minutes are approved. We have some correspondence here for an extension for Somerset Hills Shopping Center.
Yes, Madam Chairman, if that looks in order. If the board is interested, you could just move to, someone could move to approve the 1-year extension of the statutory protection period for Somerset Hills Shopping Center.
I'll make a motion to extend for 1 year.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Urbana. Aye. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius.
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Mr. First.
Aye.
Committee Mahiki.
Am I eligible?
I think so. Well, I don't think there was a D variance. What, Paul, do you remember specifically? I can't remember.
No, it's not a D variance.
Okay,
Then aye.
you're eligible.
Yay.
And Chairwoman Betcha.
Aye. Okay, the extension is approved. Okay, we have a couple of resolutions. We have Panasic resolution. Right here. Do I hear a motion? So moved.
Second.
Abstaining, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
You need a roll call.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Committee Mahiki.
Aye.
Mr. Urbana.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Mr. First.
Aye.
Chairwoman Betcha.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Okay, we also have a resolution for the Center of Contemporary Art.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Roll call.
Committee Mahiki.
Aye.
Mr. Urbana.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Mr. First.
Aye.
Chairwoman Betcha.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Okay, one of our 202, 206 is here.
This is another 202, 206.
I know.
I will actually call it Weicker for the distinction.
Figure
out
which.
On the corner of-
Waker, yes.
Because it's not on 202.
No, it is not.
No, it's on 206 in Lamington Road.
You don't name them.
I know we don't.
this is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval for an office building, office slash retail building on the corner. I think it's the fourth application the board will see on this site since I've been around.
I think I've seen
They're-
four of them.
They've submitted their information, there are a couple of relatively minor waivers identified in my letter dated April 9th. My recommendation is the waivers be granted and the application be deemed complete.
So if the board would entertain, it's a motion to waive the remaining items for completeness as recommended by Mr. Ferrero and to deem the application complete. Is there such a motion?
So moved. Second.
I'm sorry, who was the person that?
Steve
Steve
Thank you,
and George, you good?
and George second.
thank you.
And roll call.
We need a roll call.
Yeah, let's do it.
Committeeman Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Urbana. Aye. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelia.
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Mr. First.
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye. Okay, does he need a date for that?
I am proposing to them that May 9th, because that's the day that Alfieri said that they will be here.
That's
another
is that 20, is that 20
chocolate.
Route 206 associate?
Correct.
202, 206.
So I did email them
Interchangeable.
and ask them if they actually planned on coming, which I would imagine 99.9% that they won't be. So obviously we'd like to get them on as soon as possible because we already have someone on May 2nd.
Right, okay,
So we'll see if they can make that.
all right. Sounds good,
May 9th.
all right. Right, now we go to, I guess we have a joint meeting here between the Historic Commission and Land Use Board. Who's gonna do this? Anna?
I am gonna do it,
Okay.
and Lou's gonna correct me when I go astray.
Okay, he'll fill in here and there.
So, there was a joint Historic Preservation Commission and Land Use Subcommittee appointed, I want to say about a year ago,
Yeah.
to try to take a look at our ordinances and come up with some recommendations.
Yep.
We did a pretty extensive review of the process and how the two review processes interact and intersect. And we came up with a couple of recommendations. The first, and I think easiest to implement, is a recommendation that variances related solely to signage should not require a site plan. Part of what we wanted to do was make this process a little easier in terms of signage and less costly to our local businesses. We're also talking about increasing some of the bulk standards for the signs, right? There's a current square footage requirement. We're suggesting we increase that by 50%. Allowing window stencils, there are some already in town, but those require a variance and a site plan now because they're not specifically allowed in the ordinance. Adding the ability to put signage for properties that have frontage on multiple streets, right? So if you have frontage on 202, 206 and Lamington Road, you might get two signs instead of just one. And trying to clarify our sign ordinances, because we have general ordinances, then we have zone requirements, and then we have HPC overlays. So how those all interact and interplay, if we can clarify that. One of the things the HPC is doing is they are applying for a grant to get some dollars to help offset the cost of doing those, what will be fairly substantial revisions to the ordinances, as well as GIS mapping, to do the zone overlays, because we don't currently have that. So you can't look up if you have a lot in, right, say one of our village districts, you can't put the lot and block in and know exactly which zones you may be applicable to your property, you have to look at like.
A lot of
three different
cities have
maps.
that now.
Uh-huh.
but Big cities.
Which one applies?
Right, so, Robin is helping HPC do the grant application and Sean Flynn is working on it. And hopefully we will get those, state dollars to help paraprofessionals to.
That sounds really good, but it sounds like something to coordinate with Paul and engineering too, because tax map. So many things could be digitized that I don't know enough about it, but I wouldn't do just the one purpose, like have.
There may be a way to do it through the SDL program that
There is.
the township has and just
There-
get in there.
there
It
absolutely-
becomes complicated when properties are split zoned, but there's not a lot of those.
Yes,
There's also times when they might be in one zone, but overlapped with a historic district. So, what comes to priority, the historic district or whatever the zone calls for? So those are some of the things we want, trying to kind of just separate them out and make it easier for people applying for signs to understand what they should or shouldn't be, be held to, what standard.
Yeah, it's a zoning ordinance that sets the size and location of the signage. It's the HPC that reviews what they look like. Because the size is set by the ordinance and the HPC reviews.
Right, but if maybe Anna can help me explain this a little bit better. What we found was that historic commission did not necessarily have a true understanding of the zone ordinances. So that when they were approving signage, they were approving it based on their historic preservation committee guidelines, not the zone guidelines. So
Well, that's what they're supposed to approve it based on. They're not supposed to review it for zoning.
That's what we're trying to get this all settled out so everyone understands.
and one of the other things the HPC wants to do with some of these grant dollars is do sort of like a quick sheet guide for local businesses, so that if you have sort of an individual business owner, they don't have to dig through the 7 sections of the ordinance to figure out what applies. There's some sort of streamlined guidance.
Do's and don'ts, right?
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. I'll give you an example.
signage for dummies, right, like,
In a village neighborhood district, an example of someone came in for a sign, the historic preservation committee went through the whole thing. They gave the approval for the sign, they put up the sign, but they never mentioned to the historic commission that there was already another sign on the property for a different business. So now there's 2 signs on the same property for 2 different businesses when they're completely against the ordinance. So we're trying to get this all lined up so that the zoning officer, the historic preservation committee, and the ordinances are easier to understand and follow through with from one level to the next, especially for the business owners. It gets a lot more complicated than it sounds, but that's what we're trying to sort out.
And I believe Frank's also working on the grant,
yes.
right, Frank? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yep, that's correct.
Frank,
One,
do you have a mustache? Sorry, good tell.
Out of left field.
No, it's.
I know.
Just one more thing I'd like to add to this is that we really found that there was a significant deficit in the enforcement aspect of our sign zoning laws, ordinance, and all. Many times, the zoning officer wasn't even aware of some of these approvals that the historic commission had done. We need to figure out how enforcement or review is going to take place in this town, because there are people who actually put up signs and don't even ask.
Well, I think that's actually very simple. On the bottom of any historic preservation approval of a sign, it should say you must apply for a sign permit. Then it goes to the zoning officer to review it for compliance with the zoning.
Right, but what if someone doesn't put up a sign? I mean, it doesn't go for permit, because we've had.
Well, then,
people put up signs,
because if,
and the
if,
sign stays there and no one even knows that no one went through the permit process for it.
well, that's an enforcement issue to follow along, but if it's a question of whether or not the people know they need to get a sign permit, every sign permit reviewed by HPC should say you need a sign permit from the zoning officer.
And I don't know if Suzanne is on here. She's kind of worked on, I guess, some of the forms or something to make sure that what you're talking about happens more consistently. But the idea is that you could go all around town and find people putting in lawn signs and other kinds of signs and the A signs, all those things with never even asking for permission. And that's one of the things we want to try and find a way to make enforcement more practical. Now, I do know that we've had one of our people in the HPC was on the board here, was going around town and then calling Suzanne and say, hey, I know this sign is not, legit. And Susanna would be necessarily contact those people and say, hey, you have to get a permit for this sign. So we have to have a mechanism in town that enforces all of these ordinances. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. And that was some of the subjects that came up in these meetings.
And Luanana, am I correct? I also understand that in some cases, HPC would grant approval, and then what was constructed was entirely different.
Yeah, and I think we found a way to sort of close that loophole,
Okay,
right? To make sure that the approval from HPC included the drawings that were approved.
got it.
So that
That
it's
makes
not
sense.
just
Yeah,
that this
absolutely.
business owner got HPC approval, it's this particular
What
thing was approved.
And that's the enforcement part of it. So we're trying to make it, the process more cohesive with less holes and gaps in it, so the enforcement becomes easier.
Excellent. I think during COVID, it sort of got out of control a little bit, because we were trying to be
Lenient.
lenient, and then, but it's gotten too
And it's
far.
come
Too
back,
far.
right, in the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year,
Right,
right? I know Susanna has done a lot of outreach to the local businesses about like, this is not permitted and how do we work with you to get you back in
right.
compliance?
Okay, good job.
There is one comment I'd make at the top there. Variance solely related to signage should not require a site plan. It's an interesting idea. There might be some way to do that, but technically, when someone builds a new freestanding sign, they are doing what is normally a site plan change. And it's important because the setback that's required is only known from a survey. So I think that you might have to require, I think, just to even know what it looks like and where it's going to go and to get it placed for proper setback,
Correctly.
you probably have to have a site plan for freestanding signs, even if they're not a variance, believe it or not.
And the mechanism might be a site plan waiver,
Right.
because if it's technically a site plan under our ordinance, if a variance is required, or it's a major site plan that needs preliminary and final, and it's a whole mess. But if you go for a site plan waiver, you can bring in what you think you need, the board determines if it's enough, and then the variance can be granted. And that, what is enough is probably a survey that shows where the sign is, details on the sign.
But I presume that most of this was about signs on buildings.
Yes,
Yes.
That's
Real
easier,
accurate.
that's easier to deal with without a site.
Yep.
But it seems like the sign permit is the trigger here. Maybe we're not having enough involvement in sign permits, maybe.
I think what happened in a couple of instances, there were people who went through the HPC, got their approval and thought, okay, that's all I need. And
It does now require Susanna's signature.
Yeah.
So when I get an application back from HPC, it goes right to Susanna's desk if she was not actually at the HPC meeting. So
So we're trying to tighten those loops.
Yeah.
Right. That's good.
Okay.
How did you deal with what are they called, the flag or? The wave, what are those called, pennant signs or something like that? Did you jump into that controversy?
No, it comes back to enforcement.
We don't like them.
But
We don't like them.
we don't allow them, I don't think, but they're there. So what,
But it
so
comes back to.
you want to keep it, don't allow them?
That comes back to enforcement again. It's like,
I understand.
even those kind of signs, you should get some kind of special permit, or should be a time limit on it. But then someone has to go there to the business owner and say, you've expired your time, take the sign down.
But you don't really want them, right?
We don't
No,
want
we
them.
don't want.
We affirmatively don't want them.
And they're not permitted currently either. are they?
No,
No, I was gonna say.
That's why
But they do it
Yeah,
anyway.
right,
It's like just.
They're easy to plant, so they do it anyway.
right.
Yes, we totally, those totally allowed. Yes.
What to do? Like those blow up Santas.
I will now ask the planning board if they have any comments or anything. Mr. Because I believe you two gentlemen will be leaving soon. I think, aren't they? No? Or can they hear the,
No, I don't think so.
no?
Unless,
These are all Board of
as far as I
Adjustment.
know, we're doing it, well, it's. I don't believe there's any request for a D variance, but. I maybe have to hear
Okay,
what the application is.
okay, then maybe you're staying.
Whatever he wants to do.
Okay.
Interpretations you're eligible for, C variances you're eligible for,
Okay,
site plans you're eligible for. Not D variance.
okay, I can still open it up to the planning board. Do you have any comments, questions? No? Okay, anybody on the planning board? No? Okay, we'll close it. So our next application then is 2475 Lamington Road. Anyone here? No one's here from.
Oh, wait a minute, that's just,
Which one?
That is,
That's May 2nd.
that's carried to May.
yeah, 2475 May 2nd.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Adult.
I'm sorry.
It's the fine print.
Okay,
New hearing.
yeah, it is the fine print. Okay, so we have a new hearing. Real name. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No,
Yep, if you would both come to the table where the microphone is.
Why? You have to ask Tom something. It's so technical.
You want more of me, Janine?
No.
I thought we had laryngitis.
Good evening. I'll swear you both in. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name, and give us an address.
Judy Creelman, CREELMAN, 120 Fairview Drive, Bedminster.
Thank you.
Daniel. Henson, ENCI. 27 East Main Street. Many 079.
Thank you. Daniel. Paul, is there anything for completeness on this? I think it's complete.
No, this was already deemed complete.
Right. Daniel, are you an architect?
Yes,
If you could, I don't believe you testified before this board in the past.
I have.
You have?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So maybe just give us a quick summary of your qualifications.
I'm a registered licensed architect in the state of New Jersey since 2007. And I've appeared before this board and almost every other board in the surrounding areas and surrounding towns over the course of the past 15 years.
Okay. And where is your degree from?
New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Okay, thank you. The board will accept your qualifications as a registered architect. And in whatever order you'd like to proceed, please go ahead.
It's on already. You
Just
have
get
to-
close enough.
Again.
Oh. okay. Like lean over, is
What else?
that okay?
Close to you.
Oh, okay. Hello, good evening. My name is Judy Creelman. As I said, I live at 120 Fairview Drive in Bedminster. I've lived there, like 40 years approximately. I love this area and during that time, there's been no changes to like the structure of my house, but now I would like to make some improvements to kind of bring it in line with current standards. So I consulted with an architect and he advised me that to do these improvements, I would need to apply for a variance, a side setback variance, but a variance. It was in all the paperwork. So I'm here to apply for the variance and my architect is here with me to give you I guess, a technical description of the project. And that's why I'm here and why he's here.
So I'm happy to do that. How do you want me to tie in with?
Just log in, yeah, I'm right, the screen's ready to share.
And is there, I saw the Bedminster Wi-Fi on here. Is there a password? For me
Yes.
to get on them?
1 Miller Lane,
Yes,
and it's the number one, right?
correct.
One numeric
Yes.
Miller Lane.
Miller Lane, all one.
All lowercase, all in one.
Yep. Sorry, did you say uppercase or lowercase?
All lower.
Lower. Should I just log into the Zoom
Yes.
right off here?
From one of the emails, which I see in.
Yeah, I could look. I mean, it might be easier just to type this and put in the passcode. Okay, so it looks like I'm on.
Yep.
And should I unmute or
No.
Keep it muted.
keep it muted? Okay.
But the screen is ready to share, so you can just pull up whatever documents you need.
And is there or a plug
For,
to plug in? It's not, the battery is gonna last throughout. It's gonna
Oh.
pop out. I don't know that I'm gonna reach.
I don't believe that we haven't said for.
That means you have to talk fast.
I'll present in under 60 seconds.
Photographic memories. We all have the plans too.
Okay,
Yeah, we do. Sorry.
all right. Okay. All right, so the existing house is a single-story house. It's located in the R2 zone. It's an existing non-conforming property. It's the requirement for the zone is 2 acres. The existing property is 1.34 acres. It's also undersized and non-conforming for lot width. The requirement is a minimum requirement of 200 feet of lot width, and the current property is 123.5 feet wide. So as a result, it's an extremely narrow property. And coming into the site plan, looking at the required side yard setback lines.
It died.
I think it just died.
Okay, if you just talk in words, we have the.
We all have.
We have a plan.
Okay,
Mhm.
And just describe everything with words and that'll be fine.
okay. So the required side yard setback in the zone is 35 feet per side yard. And then there's also a combined side yard. So based on the width of the property, currently the left-hand side yard is 35 feet conforming, and the right-hand side yard is currently 30.3 feet. So it's an existing non-conforming. Currently on the right-hand side of the house, there is a open frame wood deck, and the proposed addition is extending essentially into the footprint or into the size of that existing wood deck. So not encroaching further than that, taking up essentially the same footprint. And the resulting, a small piece coming to the side of that is slightly bigger. So from 30.3, it's 29.7 is the additional small reduction in terms of provided side yard. The overall combined side yard that's required is 65.3, I'm sorry, 61.75, and we're providing 64.7. So we conform on the combined side yard. It's a function of the narrowness of the property encroaching into and creating a narrow building envelope. So the proposed work on the house is still maintaining 1 story and essentially taking what is now an extremely small kitchen area and dining area and doing an addition to the right side of the house where the deck currently sits to expand and make a larger kitchen with an island, larger dining area, and kind of living room, family room, basic living spaces larger than what they currently are on the house. There is replace the wood deck that was on the side of the house that was encroaching into the setback. There is a wood deck now proposed on the rear of the house, which a small sliver of that also, because it lines up with the addition, is also encroaching into that side yard, but no further than the house. And the majority of it is behind and is beyond the setback, not an issue. There's also work proposed at the front of the house to expand the existing kind of 1.5 car garage that is there, to widen it and both make it deeper. But all of that work conforms with the front yard and side yard setbacks. So there's no variance request for that portion, but that is a portion of the overall proposed work for the project. The roof line of the house is being extended because in relation to the rest of the house, the addition is fairly small, and it's just to extend a portion and get more space. All of the roof lines and materials, windows, character, various pieces on the house are meant to blend in seamlessly, not change the overall look or character. We're actually extending the existing peak across and extending that roof line in the same plane that it is currently. So in essence, the house will look as it does now. The garage piece to the front to add some character to the house and give it a nicer appearance when you're looking from the street is showing a board and batten siding as opposed to continuing the vinyl siding around the what's on the house currently. And there's also a cupola shown on the top of that garage. Again, those aren't anything that we're seeking variance relief for, but just trying to improve the appearance in the streetscape with the look of the house. Oh, sure.
So that everybody.
With the expansion, all of the other requirements for principal building coverage, lot coverage, floor area are all well under what the requirements are for the zone. The required maximum principal building coverage is 10%, and what's proposed with the addition would only total out to 4.8% for the entire property. The amount of impervious coverage being added is also fairly small. There's a net gain of 849 square feet, well under the 1,000 square feet for the 2,500 square foot requirement for soil disturbance. So no significant issues from an impervious coverage standpoint either. Yeah, that's the extent, and it's a fairly straightforward in terms of what the addition is. So there's not a lot of additional detail or other elements to it. It is that one small portion with the deck behind, and it's the variance requirement relief is specifically for that small amount of additional encroachment into the side yard.
That's really the only thing, the only variance is the side yard, right?
Correct.
So you've got a deck that's that setback is 30.3 and you're going to 29.7.
Correct. With the addition the setback would be 29.7. Correct.
Okay.
And
But
just
the
to
requirement is 35 feet.
and just to confirm, it seems like you're adding another bedroom too. You already had, there's already 5, you're adding another one, but
There
you're
is
getting
not.
rid of one.
Correct. There is a bedroom there's
Basement.
3 bedrooms above, 2 bedrooms below existing. And the septic is current. They actually did the septic.
It is 5.
For a 5-bedroom house. The current bedroom that's shown on the basement plan of the lower level plan that was on the far left
Yeah,
in the front. The bedroom, it really has no windows. I mean, it doesn't have the ability to have like a real egress window. There's almost no light. There's also, what's that?
Shows a window on the plan.
There is, but it's in grade underneath a cantilevered overhang on the left side
Oh,
of
is
the
that the
house.
same with the other existing bedroom down there?
No, as the grade slopes towards the
Oh.
back, that rear bedroom has an acceptable
Oh.
window. This bedroom has a small, like a basement window.
So the plan is to turn that into a utility room?
Yeah, because
You're gonna move the
currently,
AC and everything over there?
currently the utilities are located directly next to that in a very narrow space.
Yeah, next to the current laundry, I guess.
Yes, that little room right to the side of that existing bedroom. And there's not enough room for the utilities in there. They're split into 2 other closets. And there's also the main electrical panel and sub panel for the house are also in that bedroom.
Oh, they're already there.
So
Okay,
it's
makes
not
sense.
really a bedroom, even though it's on the septic for a bedroom. So the goal is if they have the septic and it was a 5-bedroom house, is to at least have a decent bedroom for that 5th bedroom. So eliminating this and utilizing the whole space for the utility room, get the furnace, get everything in there,
Gotcha. Okay.
and then use the new space, which has full window because it's kind of exposed basement on that side. So it's a more usable, functional bedroom.
All right, thank you.
You're adding, so it's remaining a 5-bedroom house, but you are adding another bathroom, correct?
Correct, yes.
If I could just make a couple of comments relative to the septic, because there are some traps I don't want you to get into.
Mhm.
Obviously, if the records show it's a 5-bedroom, it's a 5-bedroom, that's not an issue.
Right.
Be aware that you can't have an ejector pump to the septic system.
Right, and
That's-
we're not,
it
yeah,
has
there
to
is
be
no,
gravity.
it's by gravity. The way it
The
comes
the
out.
other thing is, and this is important because we recently ran into this, under the septic regulations, this cannot be a reconstruction of the dwelling.
Right.
Which means you have to be able to occupy the building during the renovation process.
Which you can.
And I'm just saying that because we had one, house was completely gutted,
Right.
unoccupiable, and we've got a long problem with that.
Right.
So I just want to make sure you don't fall into that trap.
Correct, yeah, and we addressed all those and definitely the ejector pit, so it's not an intensification of the existing system. It's flowing by gravity off of the existing waistline that runs underneath and goes out to the existing septic.
Anything else? Anybody else on the board? No, no. Okay, Frank, anything?
You're on mute.
God, I do that every time, sorry.
I think we've heard a good description of the kind of constraints that they're dealing with. The fact that they're building over an already disturbed area minimizes the new impact of the footprint. I do think that there's a little more mass joining that neighbor to the south. And I'm hoping that the tree line would be something that's going to ameliorate that. But under the circumstances, it seems as though the variance is warranted to allow this construction. And given the floor plan of the house and the location of the improvements, it's not like you could put them any other place really. They go where they have to go. So I think it makes a lot of sense. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Just Frank, real quick, is this consistent with the rest of the houses on Fairview, especially on that right side of Fairview? You took photos.
Yes. Stylistically, the houses have some differences, but in terms of scale and size, I think it's very comparable. I think it characteristically fits the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Anyone has anything?
And if anyone online has something they'd like to say, you can unmute yourselves, you can raise your hand. You're on your phone, you can star 9. Does not look like anyone online has anything to say.
Okay, I see no one in public. And we'll close it.
So if the board is ready, you might consider a motion to approve the C variance application of Judy Creelman as described this evening, as set forth in the plans, and subject to the standard conditions, to Paul and Frank's reports, Paul's comments tonight. Seems like it would be appropriate if you want to be effective. It will be effective this evening, provided they comply with all other requirements. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
No, racist. Larry wins. But a second is appropriate.
Okay.
Larry and Lou, and the roll call, please.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Urbana? Aye. Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. First?
Aye.
Chairwoman Betcha.
Hi.
Very good.
Good luck.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Luck.
Sure. Thank you.
Wake up.
Take care.
Nice. Okay, our next application is Lisa Dolan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Larry Callie, on behalf of the applicant, Lisa Dolan and Cameron Dolan. We've got sort of a unique application here tonight, Madam Chair, members. What I'd like to do is briefly frame it for the board and then turn it over to Ms. Dolan sitting next to me on the project. It's a B application, B as in boy. I don't think the board sees them too much. In my 20 years of practice, I think I've had 5 of them, maybe. B application is an interpretation application before the board. It's not a typical variance application, site plan, use relief, or anything like that, or a appeal of the zoning officer for that matter. It's an application of first instance before the board to interpret your own code on our behalf. The reason that brings us here is Ms. Dolan is under contract to acquire 11 Pottersville Road. It's the old Peapack Gladstone Bank. It's currently an office. There's a residential unit above. It's a nice old structure, about 1.5 acres in the VN Village Neighborhood Zone District. Ms. Dolan's part of her purchase involves her repurposing of this structure for a bakery. There's more to it than that, but high level, a bakery cafe type use. Ms. Dolan, in her due diligence going back a few months, spoke with the zoning official, and the zoning official thought it all made sense. It all worked under the code, under the prior resolution, which back in 76 ratified the residential use above, not related to the commercial use. So we think we fit neatly within the code as far as the retail and service uses allowed. The zone even allows restaurants up to 1,200 square feet. But belt and suspenders, before we go too far with the deal, and Ms. Dolan acquires this nice property and hopes to repurpose it with her dream facility here, we wanted to come to the board for the interpretation of the code as to whether the proposed use that Ms. Dolan's going to explain is a permitted use within that zoning district as the board sees it. That is the B application we have. Now, down the road, I explained to Ms. Dolan, and the board probably knows this as well, we're probably going to trigger site plan at some point. You heard Tom before explain how even a freestanding sign technically is site plan reviewable. We're probably going to relocate some parking areas, fix this parking circulation, clean up the property, anything outside the existing box. The existing structure is probably going to trigger site plan review. And there's probably going to be an outdoor seating component for our patrons to sit and have a cup of coffee outside. So we'll certainly be back before the board for probably site plan review at some point. But right now, there are no plans prepared on behalf of the applicant. This is strictly an interpretation of the code on the use. So if no questions, Madam Chair and members, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Ms. Dolan, and she could take you through what she hopes to do here with this property when she becomes a proud owner of property in the town.
Okay.
Sure, I'll swear in Ms.
Thank you.
Dolan. Ms. Dolan, please raise your right hand. You can swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
And please state your name and address and spell your last name.
My name is Cameron Dolan, Dolan, and I live at 38 Leetown Road, Blietttown in Old Wick, New Jersey, 08858.
Thank you.
So Cameron, you heard my proffer to the board about what brings us here this evening in a very high level as to what we hope to do here. I know you've got a very strong vision for the property. If you wouldn't mind, take the board through that vision, what the board would see here day over day as the intended use if you acquired this property and developed it as you'd like to.
Absolutely.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out today. I really appreciate it. So with this property, we envision transforming the property into a vibrant community hub where locals can gather to enjoy fresh bread, a cup of coffee, small cafe menu with occasional creative workshops. The first floor will maintain the subdivision for separate businesses, which will include a bakery and a small retail space. Second floor will remain a 2-bedroom apartment. At the front of the building, a bread shop cafe will run in the pre-existing bank space. The vision is to create a charming space specializing in sourdough bread alongside a curated picnic-inspired menu utilizing a market-style dining experience. Customers can browse our selection of freshly baked goods, place orders at the counter, and interact with our friendly staff before sitting down to sip and eat or take our goods to go. There will be a full coffee menu, selections of breads, dips, sandwiches, soups, salads, and other quick bites, with rotating seasonal flavors, providing a unique twist on classic combinations. We'll have a small retail space before the counter with stored merchandise, homely decorative accessories, locally sourced product, and specialty goods. There'll also be like a refrigerator with prepared items and other soft drinks. Our customers will be able to enjoy their goods inside the cafe, on the porch, or outside in the yard space with seasonal outdoor seating. The center section of the first floor will house our commercial kitchen and production area with state-of-the-art baking equipment, ample space for our team to create our signature treats. Utilizing the basement, we will designate storage areas for ingredients, packaging materials, and finished products to maintain organization and ensuring the freshness of our goods. The back side of the store will have a separate entrance to a part-time retail space that will host occasional workshops for small groups to experience the art of making bread. We plan to operate 6 to 7 days a week, Monday to Sunday, catering to the varied schedules of our community members. Our tentative operating hours will be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., allowing early risers to grab their morning coffee and provide evening treats before dinner time. We anticipate to employ a team of 3 to 5 dedicated staff members, a baker, barista, and counter servers to ensure the smooth operations and accessible customer service. We anticipate receiving regular deliveries 1 to 2 times a week for our fresh ingredients, with local suppliers in the driveway, non-disruptive to traffic in the area. To uphold our commitment to sustainability, we will implement comprehensive refuse and recycling schedules to provide to manage waste generated from our operations. This will include separating recyclable materials, cardboard, plastics from our packaging, and collect and dispose in accordance with the local regulations. Our focus is to provide a classic New Jersey countryside experience through simple sophistication. We hope to be able to reach and connect with the community while we tap into the appreciation towards the nostalgic nostalgic history of the town. Providing an intimate ambiance will encourage our customers to gather and create lasting memories together there.
And you've even got a name in mind.
Yeah, I was thinking of calling it Heated with the slogan made with a temper to play on words for the bakery.
I didn't hear that. What?
Heated,
Heated,
yeah, like,
Heated?
yes. Mhm. Yeah, so just a small bread shop cafe.
You know what, I'd say that was one of the best opening statements. Since I don't know.
You're hungry, Tim. That's probably why.
Answered all the,
Yeah. We gave Cameron some homework. We said in your own words, tell the board what you want to do here, and that's what we got. It was perfect.
That was very good.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
I'd like to ask Tom,
Yeah.
this B variance interpretation, is there something we should understand about that?
Well, I think you understand it. Basically, what it means is they're asking you to interpret the ordinance and whether it allows the proposed use. But there's a nuance here that if you read Frank's report, we have an actual issue that doesn't seem something you can interpret it. The VN3 zone does not allow restaurants, but so the question, I guess, maybe Frank can elaborate on the complication of that. The other issue is whether the retail space for the teaching of classes for people to learn how to bake bread is as an allowed use as well. But probably the bigger problem is the fact that VN3 does not allow restaurants. So is this a restaurant?
But Tom, let me just get into detail on some definitions before Frank talks about that, because a restaurant under the township's ordinance must have table service. So if it doesn't have table service, it's not a restaurant.
And this would not. This would have seating for our patrons, but not table service.
So it really falls into the quick food type retail service, retail use.
So in other words, you would buy your food and you'd be able to sit there,
Yeah, absolutely.
but you wouldn't service anybody.
No,
And how many employees did you have? I think you said.
about 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
Is there something in our ordinance that just differentiates what is the primary use and what is the secondary use? Right, because the bakery seems to be clearly a permitted principal use.
So I'll take a stab at that before Paul on behalf of the applicant, if we could. So the workshops are ancillary and accessory, right? You always have principal uses, conditional uses, accessory uses, and prohibited uses. This is truly accessory and subordinate to the principal use. The workshops would be part-time, and Cameron could explain that further, but it'd be small classes. Here's how you bake, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. Not too dissimilar from the book you try to put together for the sign package, the do's and don'ts of signage, sort of a simplified version. This is not the primary business operation here. This is sort of a secondary class, more for fun and for adventure for patrons to sort of supplement what you get here during the day when you come in to buy something. Hey, I made that 2 weeks ago. Cameron, you could explain further, but it's a perfect question. That is accessory. That is not the primary. The primary use here is not education of baking or culinary arts. But you could elaborate, Cameron.
Yeah, so these would be scheduled classes. It wouldn't be a class that you sign up for an eight-week course. It's more so to gather as like an activity to do with locals and your friends, family, anything to get to gather and just have a shared experience together of something on the creative side.
So not a regular,
Well, there is a space where it could be done regularly, according to the drawing.
well, and I think my question
And if
particularly
we
to
can't
our
control, we
professionals.
can't control the, let's call it the frequency of use, we can control the space and sounds, they're saying it's accessory and subordinate to the bakeries, so.
And right, I understand the applicant's argument and I don't disagree with it. But my question is, do we have some limitations on like, does the space have to be accessory and subordinate to?
We don't have a
Primary.
direct, Frank might comment, but I don't think we have a specific square footage or anything like that. It's more,
Conceptual.
I guess it's more, I guess one of the things that I would be interested in is the space shared with the bakery, and is the baker or someone who works at the bakery teaching the class?
It's, Ms. Dolan will elaborate further, but it's all affiliated with Ms. Dolan's business. This is not as if she hires someone else and they run Mike's school shop out of the back room and she's in the front and they have their own key, they have their own bathroom. This is one operation. That's the subordinate use. I'll give you a very quick anecdotal example that we're dealing with today. The Mayo Performing Arts Center in Morristown. We've got a pending zoning application with the Mayo Performing Arts Center, and they're proposing a very large addition, including classrooms, instructional education for the arts. And the question was, well, is that accessory? Sure it is. Wow, you go here and you learn all of the arts, you learn your craft, and you eventually make it onto the stage. Well, how big's the space? A few hundred square feet. How big's the theater? It's 2,000 square feet or plus. So if it feels subordinate and accessory, it usually is. And the space we're talking about and the time that's going to be invested in this is much more limited than your day-to-day 6-7 day operations. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Could I just make a quick observation, Madam Chair?
Yeah, right.
I appreciate the attempt to clarify the nature of what the real primary activity is going to be. The way the ordinance is written and the highlighted language in my report shows that mixed uses of any of the above are permitted. So they're not saying there's a primary use. If you were talking about what accessory uses are permitted, none of the things that we're talking about as subordinate are actually permitted accessory uses in the ordinance. So we just want to be clear that we're not confusing the terminology. And I only say that for clarity purposes, not because I disagree with the concept here. In fact, I think the whole idea of bringing this building back to life in a little village setting like this is really exciting. And I did caution the board about the fact that there's a sort of a excess of pavement, but really that means there's a landscape on which to plot when they come back for a site plan, the kind of improvements that are needed. The tricky part here is we're not being asked for a variance, so you can't really condition anything here, including a future site plan. You're basically saying either, yes, we can interpret this to be permitted by the ordinance, or no, we can't. And I say that like a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Tom, maybe you want to.
Oh, well said, Attorney, couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, so I think we just want to make sure that on those questions that you need to answer tonight, we're really clear. But I have enthusiasm about what we've heard. I think it also, like someone said, was one of the best presentations and clear and cogent. And any of the details about the site don't really come into question. So you're not looking for me. I've added some gratuitous information here about how the future might be dealing with this site. But truth is, it's a pretty simple question. So I think we just have to.
In your report, so you highlight the bakeries not to exceed 1,200 square feet. You highlight mixed uses of any of the above, providing there is no more than one dwelling unit per lot. And then right under that, the permitted uses, restaurants, stores not to exceed 1,200 square feet. I take it that's a standalone only and not to be combined with the other uses?
Yeah, given the way the ordinance is constructed, you kind of have to interpret the use of the word above to mean anything below is not included. But I think what Paul has said about the definition of restaurant and the fact that the bakery and the coffee and other related activities that are going to go with the bakery aren't a restaurant if there's no wait staff.
Well,
It really makes it.
I don't see how you can otherwise have any bakery.
Well,
Assuming you're gonna have a bakery with coffee, that's a bakery.
Well, a bakery, it's
Without-
frequent, but a bakery frequently has coffee.
Very
What's
boring.
the
so it appears that you can have a bakery with seats without table service.
Right.
Is not a restaurant. So that's
That's
not,
the way I understand it.
not at least the way Paul and Frank have explained it, and that's their request. They're requesting that you allow them to have the bakery, the shop for the goods, the space for the teaching that's related to the bakery, the storage downstairs. All seem to fit within the mixed use allowed, as long as it's not a restaurant with sit-down seating. And Frank has made a good point, and it's correct. all you're doing tonight is determining and giving confirmation in writing that the use proposed is allowed in the zoning ordinance for the VN zone district. And
VN3.
the VN3 zone district, and they will then be able to rely upon that written interpretation in determining whether to acquire the property. And if they want to make changes to it, they have to come back to the board for site plan. But if they're using the place as is, they might not even have to come back. I mean, it is a commercial building with a space for a bank downstairs, and there is an existing apartment which is allowed in the VN3 zone district. And so people can change commercial uses within a commercial zone or mixed use zone. But they're trying to get confirmation in writing before they acquire it, that the use is allowed.
I have more questions of Frank. So Frank, in your letter, you make reference to dental office,
An existing
Right,
use, tenant that's vacating that,
but they're vacating.
they are,
So
yes.
that's not in your,
No,
it's not part of your interpretation.
they're vacating in June. Yeah, they've been there for years and they're vacating early this summer. And just to touch on Tom's point, you will see us for a site plan, I think. I mean, thematically, the applicant is looking to beautify the site and improve it. They're gonna come back, they're gonna make it look better, sharper, more appropriate, well appointed. So this board will see us in a site plan application, I suspect.
And coming back to it, are we being asked to interpret the 1,200 feet versus the 1,500 of existing?
I think there's the rub right there, Mayor. The question is, how does that 1,200-foot limit affect the proposal?
The
I say that in part because it applies, it doesn't say 1,200 square feet of all these combined mixed uses. It seems to say 1,200 square feet for the first category B, 1,200 for local retail in C, 1,200 in the local service activities, so does that mean if you call something a different use, which sounds like we've heard some different classifications of what the uses would be, that maybe that's not an issue? I think we need a little clarity about how much square footage is being devoted to which uses. If it were divided in half, for instance, it wouldn't be an issue. If there was two businesses on the first floor, each using half of the 1,500, we'd just probably be able to say, yes, it's okay right now. And up to 1,200, obviously.
How many square feet is it now? Is it, if 1,200 is the issue?
It's a larger structure than that right now.
But what's the downstairs?
1,500 to here at least.
Roughly, is it?
1,500.
Roughly like 1,500.
Just about 15.
First floor.
Yeah.
First floor.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first floor is slightly larger, about 1,500 square feet, give or take. Which is an existing condition.
And so maybe I'm back to my original question. Which I'm not sure I ever clearly stated, which is the instructional section the area for teaching classes separate and apart from the everyday baking area?
So the everyday baking area would take over where the bank used to be, so that front half of the building, if you're familiar with it. And then where the dentist is currently occupying, that would be the retail / workshop area, which wouldn't be part of the main operation of the bakery itself.
That solves the problem. I'm sure that the office takes out enough of the space that we're back down below 1,200 for the,
Maybe over
there's
1,200.
nothing larger than, yeah.
But
I mean, we want to document the size of the dental office, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 300 square feet.
I mean, the question is, so that's it's more of a metric issue for the use itself. I mean, not for the use itself, but rather for how expansive and intense the use could be. I mean, the question still remains, is the applicant's proposed use, notwithstanding, for all purposes and intents, assume 1,200 is going to be what the applicant proposed, or else they're coming in here for variance relief at that point. But the use itself really is the applicant's inquiry. Their bakery use with the ancillary details being proposed on this property in this zone, is the inquiry still irrespective of the 1,200 square feet? That's still the question.
So I think to some extent you have to bifurcate the interpretation, because in no way is this criticism, from the mayor. I want this site put into use. But without data on 1,200 versus 1,500, I think it's hard to just ignore that it says 1,200. The question is this proposed use primarily a bakery? I think that's an easy answer. I think that answer is my perspective. It's yes. Whether 1,200 square feet is cumulative across A, B, C, D, E, F.
I don't believe it is, Mayor. I think it's clear that each of those says a
We do allow
separate limit.
something bigger than that, so.
But we're not giving an interpretation on the size.
Well, you
No.
might, you might
We're just
use,
giving an interpretation on, is this a bakery?
Correct.
that's correct, and not a restaurant. And you could perhaps deal with the size, because if the first floor is only 1,500 square feet. And if the dentist space is being used for the teaching location. Then technically it's two spaces of less than 1,200 square feet. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. You can't, I don't even think you could have a room that much smaller than 300 square feet for the dentist. So we don't have a picture of it, but they're saying it's less than 1,200.
And I would add on that more essential question, as the applicant's attorney has suggested, that they really need to know, are these uses okay? My gut sense is those uses are permitted.
There's also, by the way, there's also the fact that the bank exists as a commercial facility and has whatever space it has. So that had, I don't think it's gonna be more than 1,200, but if it is, that's a question that's for the future zoning officer to determine, based upon the square footage they come in with. So I think the key is whether you're satisfied that the bakery use without table service is a bakery, and whether the school space is a permitted use. And it seems like, to me, it's pretty clear that it is, but you, as a majority, get to decide that and put it in writing.
I have a question. You said that the front part, that's the existing bank, would be used for selling of bakery goods,
Yeah,
and the back area that's more or less the dentist office at this point, you said would be for classes/retail. What do you mean by retail?
so
If you're selling the bakery goods in the front, what's the retail part?
that is still not necessarily defined. I would keep it as a family business throughout the years, like whether it's antiques or home decor, small, nothing major. But that the retail items necessarily aren't defined yet.
Okay. And then the next question I have is, currently that bank has a drive-up window.
Yeah.
Do you plan on thinking that you're gonna be able to use that drive-up window?
Good question. A lot of people would, that's a very good question.
Yeah. I have no intentions for having cars drive up.
That was a great.
That's a good answer.
I like it.
It's not.
Good question. You're giving me a better answer.
I'm leaving the gun.
Rich would come back.
Back in the kid. Yeah.
That's why Rich moved, right?
Well, it's raining and Bear drives stuff.
Don't fall into that trap. We'll get you both on a zoning violation.
If I could just make one comment, and it's gonna be similar to the question that he gave the last applicant. You're on a septic system out there, you're putting a food service use
Yeah.
in the building. That's not necessarily the same design flow as a retail office space.
Mhm.
So it may have implications relative to creating the septic.
Without a doubt, and that's something that's being looked at by an engineer, and then also separately, Dynamic Engineering is looking at a civil plan right now, so they've got a full complement of professionals already looking into that. And the septic is already being upgraded as part of this acquisition, but even further, it might have to be other measures in place for the
Okay.
bakery. Absolutely, well, we realize that, and
And
they don't have
the same thing with the reconstruction comment applies, because with the reconstruction, the septic has to be 100% in compliance with the current code.
Mhm.
And a reconstruction is something where you need a new certificate of occupancy. So sometimes most times you do a renovation with a certificate of approval.
Right.
But certain times you may need a CO. So that's my caution.
understood, and that's the intent.
And the apartment, you plan to rent that?
I have a question.
Wait,
She just asked one.
Steve, just a minute, please.
If the building had
wait for.
I
the-
just asked a question, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
It's okay. The
Uh,
apartment, you plan to rent that?
Yeah, potentially in the future. I think right now, as we're building out the bakery, we would occupy it as residential use, not as commercial use. And then potentially renting out in the future like it has been rented out in the past.
Anyone in there now?
Mm.
And then
Go ahead, Steve.
Steve had a.
Go ahead.
Tom, if the, is the parking an issue in the sense that the building hasn't been occupied as a bank? And therefore, to the extent it may have been non-conforming, that it now has to be conforming on the parking when the building is used, let's say, as a bakery?
I don't know that it's non-conforming at all. I
But if
think
it were to be,
if it were to be, then there could be that issue when you change occupancy, whether you trigger more parking than what is existing.
And the way that gets looked at when there's a change of use from one permitted use to another permitted use. An application comes in that's reviewed by the zoning officer and the first thing we look at is the parking sufficient for the proposed use. If it's not, we don't grant the change of use and send them to the board for a site plan.
if it's not expanded or.
If it's not sufficient in
conforming.
accordance with the ordinance.
Different uses have different parking counts and standards.
In other words, it has to be conforming.
Yes,
And it has to comply with what the ordinance envisions for that use.
Thank you.
so that's something they should investigate on their side through dynamic engineering, because that is not controlled by this interpretation.
Right, and that's gonna be
No,
part of
I-
the civil
I-
plan, which commissioned down the road if we move towards the acquisition.
And I don't know the numbers, but sometimes bakeries and places with seats have seating based upon the seats versus square footage for a bank or something like that.
There's a specific standard for quick food.
The other thing to know, we've been joking about it, but technically drive-throughs are not allowed in the township at all, with the exception of banks. And so you can't convert a bank drive-through to a bakery drive-through without a use variance, and I wouldn't recommend trying. Even though Larry may like that. We have rarely allowed drive-throughs in there for banks, and it's in the zoning ordinance that way, so.
No section 68 on that one.
No, I wouldn't push that one. Call it a portico or something.
That's right.
We had somebody else propose a patio under the drive-through, the bank drive-through.
Okay, anything else from the board? No? We'll open it up to the public. Check the,
Hi, this is, I'm Al Bola. I'm, the resident at 2 Hacklebarney Road. So I'm the, building right next to, the house right next to the, proposed site.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
And please state your name and spell your last name.
First name is Albino, Albino, last name Bola, Bola.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
So it probably goes more towards the next stage, which would be the site planning. But the consideration as a full residential home, I'm looking to see if there are plans to, right now, there's a lot less traffic, right? So the dentist office is limited hours. The bank is non-existent. Even when the bank was there, the limited hours didn't allow for a lot of traffic. We're going to be talking about a lot more traffic, which I'm excited to hear the plan that Ms. Dolan has. But just to make sure, there are plans to create a barrier, if you would, a screen with shrubs and trees, because it's right on my driveway. So right now, as it currently sits, anybody who parks into the dentist office has full view into my driveway, right? My side yard. And we host a lot. And right now there's drive-through traffic, which nobody sits there and is in a leisure activity, right? And I'm assuming that that's going to change with the bakery. People are gonna be leisurely and hanging out and staying. So my concern is more, is there a privacy plan to sort of separate the driveway that I have and the current plan that you have for the bakery?
Yeah, so I know your property, Mr. Bola. I can tell you that we haven't devised an engineering site plan yet. That's going to be forthcoming likely if we move forward after tonight and then with the purchase. I can tell you that the engineer that the applicant has retained is incredibly thorough and responsive to neighbors. More often than not, we're dealing with neighbors who have recommendations, concerns, issues, and we're responsive to them. So I understand you might, light splash, things like that, worried about cars pulling in, cars pulling out. I suspect you will see a strong and appropriate buffer between the two properties, especially since the uses are contiguous, but they're different. And you've also got the board staff here at the township that's going to ensure that all the measures are complied with, buffering standards, screening standards, things like that. And they'll also make recommendations above and beyond what the code requires. So you've got an applicant who's very mindful of their neighbors through themselves and their professionals, and you've got your own township's consultants who are there to ensure the code is complied with for varied uses on zone lines. So the short answer is yes, I think you will be satisfied if and when you see a site plan come forward. And again, you'd get notice of that meeting, come in, call us up, meet with us. We'll talk to you before you even come in to make sure that you're happy with the proper buffering. But I think you'll be there anyway, even before we get to that point.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Anyone else, Janine?
The only other, I don't know if that's someone that has anything, that's the only other person that there is that's on.
He's my partner. He's on.
Okay.
So I believe we're okay.
Okay, we'll close it to the public.
Larry, anything further, or Ms. Dolan, anything further you wanted to add?
Nothing on my end, anything, Cameron?
Just thank you so much for hearing us out tonight.
Yeah.
We're
You
gonna,
folks have been
still gonna
fantastic.
do a resolution, but.
Yeah, you folks have been. What's that? I know. You've been fantastic. Janine was so helpful getting us on the agenda. So. No, Mr. Mayor, no drive-through. No drive-through, Mr. Mayor. She told me she gets to vote tonight.
She often thinks that way.
The drive-through is off the table now, but thank you again, folks. We really do appreciate your time this evening.
So,
Tom, what is the motion that you would?
yeah, the motion would generally speaking be a motion to confirm by an interpretation under section 70B that the proposed use is a bakery without sit-down service, but with sitting seats and tables indoor and outdoors. It's a permitted use in the VN3 zone, as is the proposed retail shop with the teaching area and a apartment unit above. And that's it, really.
Are we weighing in on whether this is 1,500 or 1,200?
Well, I think you have to stay under the 1,200 for each shop, so to speak, because that's the ordinance, but so I don't think you have to weigh in, but you sort of have to find that that would be under 1,200 for the bakery, separate from the other space.
Can we agree that the interpretation is that each space has to be less than 1,200 and then leave it to the
Yeah.
applicant for their site?
Yeah.
plan?
Right.
Yeah, you're determining, not determining,
Actual,
right,
we haven't provided any factual analysis
Right.
on size.
that's right. But we do have to confirm that it won't be sit-down restaurant type
Table service.
table service restaurant. And does that sound like it would work for the majority of the board?
Mhm.
It's all just a simple majority vote, and the mayor and committeemen are eligible, so I'll craft it. It's a motion to find a positive interpretation on behalf of the applicant as explained this evening, Ms. Dolan for the proposed bakery use with indoor seating and outdoor seating allowed as a permitted use in the N3 zone, provided there's no table service. And it's not a restaurant under the meaning of the code. And that it, and a separate area for, on the first floor for teaching classes and for retail. And use of the basement as described with an apartment above. And that those uses provided the first two spaces on the first floor are less than 1,200 square feet each. And this will be effective this evening, so the applicant may proceed to other approvals if needed. And we'll just incorporate by reference the two reports, or Frank's report and Paul's reports. But that they're not conditions. If there is a change to the site, it will require site plan approval. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Arbuthnot.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. DeGenini.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Mr. First.
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Really appreciate your time.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good job.
How quick can you come back now?
We're gonna file site plan tomorrow, don't worry. Have a good weekend, folks. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Janine.
I want to say thank you to Jean one more time. You're still coming back here, remember that.
Thanks again, Janine.
Fishing for compliments?
These minutes.
Take care, folks.
Okay, unless anybody has anything else that they want to discuss, we can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
That's not.
All right.
If we felt that the ordinance didn't support that, they should have come back and asked for variance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they